Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leek. I'm John as always, and today we've got the last monocolored set review, green. Tomorrow we'll take a look at all the gold cards, and then on Thursday we'll take a look at the lands and artifacts. Disclaimers, if you don't know them already, go check them out on the first few videos, but we're going to jump into the first card. Up first is Ambuscade, which means ambush, by the way. Ambuscade is 2 and a green for an instant at common. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. This is ever so slightly worse than Clear Shot from Shadows over Innistrad, which was exactly this card, but it gave it +1/+1 instead of +1/+0. But it's downshifted to common. This seems like serious, ridiculous removal, like easily first pickable removal, and probably just the best green common, period. Easy B+, no higher because obviously you need a creature that can kill something, but that's not a huge ask exactly. Ambuscade looks just incredible. B+. Beneath the Sands is up next. Beneath the Sands is 2 and a green for a sorcery at common. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Cycling for 2 generic mana. It's a more expensive Rampant Growth. Rampant Growth is 2, 1 and a green for this effect without cycling. I'm just not a big fan of this if you're a 2-color deck, but if you're absolutely tied to the idea of ramping, this is okay, but not great. Drawing it late in the game and getting to draw a card is nice and all, but not really enough for me to up the grade. If you're splashing in base green, then this does go up for sure, but Traveler's Amulet is in the set, and I think it's just better for fixing, even though it doesn't ramp. All in all, it's a C- for me, but it is a good splash option if you need it. So C- on average, slightly higher if you are splashing for a 3rd color. Bitterbow Sharpshooters is up next. Bitterbow Sharpshooters is 4 and a green for a creature Jackal Archer at common. It's a 4/4 with Vigilance and Reach. Vigilance and Reach is a lovely combo. Getting to attack in with a 4/4, pretty solid creature that probably isn't going to die to, you know, a single flyer in general, and then being able to block that flyer, very, very, very good. 5 is, you know, it's getting into the expensive range, but it's probably not going to be any cheaper for a 4/4 with a couple of French vanilla abilities attached to it. I don't think it's any higher than a C+, and I might even cut it a little bit regularly if I'm trying to lower my curve. But yeah, seems great, and the times that you're going to be up against a Blue-White Skies deck, this thing's going to feel amazing. C+ for Bitterbow Sharpshooters. Devotee of Strength is up next. Devotee of Strength is 2 and a green for a creature Naga Wizard at uncommon. It's a 3/2, 4 and a green. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. You can target this one, you can target another one. It does just say target. Yeah, this seems totally fine. It's a 3/2 for 3, which is fine and totally playable. And later, when this gets outclassed, you get to just stop attacking with it and start sinking your mana into it to make something else, or even itself, bigger, and that's just great. Works very well with flyers, with trample, any sort of evasion to give those creatures, you know, a little bit of a boost. A mana sink like this is exactly what I want to see in a format, and it really makes me hold out some serious hope for this format. Having stuff to do with your mana is just amazing, and is typically a very clear sign of a really good draft format when you have enough ways to use your mana. When you don't, you get something like Amonkhet, which even did have some with Embalm, or even worse, either Revolt or Kaladesh. So B- for a Devotee of Strength. I think it looks really, really good. Dune Diviner is up next. Dune Diviner is 2 and a green for a creature Naga Cleric at uncommon. It's a 2/3, pay 1, tap an untapped desert you control. You gain 1 life. No, just not for me. It's a vanilla 2/3 for 3 when you don't have the Desert Clause fulfilled, and then when you finally do, you can turn 2 mana into 1 life. No, just absolutely not. Giant no. No, 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 no. D+, just because if you're massively desperate, it's a vanilla 2/3 for 3. Feral Prowler is up next. It's 1 and a green for a creature cat at common. It's a 1/3. When Feral Prowler dies, draw a card. 1/3s for 2 are just not really what green wants basically ever, and they're actually really rare. We had Druid of the Cowl recently in Kaladesh, and we had Loam Larva in Oath of the Gatewatch. Those are actually 33% of all of the green 1/3s that have ever existed for 2 mana in the history of Magic. 1/3 for 2 is just not something that green ever really gets, and I don't think it's something that green ever really wants. Getting to draw a card a bit later is nice and all, but this just does not seem on plan. It's one of those, quote, early game blockers that I've seen people talk about a lot, but it blocks a creature and then is dead, and then you get a card out of it. It does not block a creature like you want it to. It doesn't let you get to the late game. It lets you get to 1 turn later. I'm out on this. It's a C-. I'm going to cut this as often as I possibly can. Frilled Sandwallah is up next. It's a single green mana for a creature lizard at common. It's a 1/1. You can pay 1 and a green. Frilled Sandwallah gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. This, of course, is a throwback to Rootwallah, which is basically this card, except it's a 2/2 for 3 mana. Now, a 2/2 that attacks for 4 for 2 mana is pretty darn good. A 1/1 that attacks for 3 for 2 mana is really kind of a different story. Turn 2 is going to feel great. You are going to attack in, basically unblockable or eat a creature, almost guaranteed. Turn 3? Well, you're going to start to get outclassed a little bit. Turn 4, turn 5, this thing just becomes way worse and just becomes a chump blocker. I'm not really sold on it. I don't like my 1/1s for 1. I don't like taking my turn 2 off just to get in 2 extra damage. So I think this is a lot worse than Rootwallah, which was actually a pretty decent card in Limited. But yeah, knocking a power off just really drastically changes the card. I'm at C- on this. I think you cut it very regularly. Up next is Gift of Strength. Gift of Strength is 1 and a green for an instant at common. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains reach until end of turn. So this is very close to Giant Growth. They tacked on a mana and they gave us reach. Reach is pretty meaningless power-wise, and doubling the cost is certainly significant cost-wise. So this is a slight, well, not a slight, a far cry from Giant Growth, to be honest. Still, you know, this is a fine run-of-the-mill green combat trick. If you've got a spot, you put it in, and if you don't, you don't. You pick it fairly late around the C- level, and you slide it in like you would a Spidery Grasp or something like that when you see some flyers. So C-, you know, it's not up there with some of the other combat tricks we have in this set, but if you've got the spot, go for it. Harrier Naga is up next. Harrier Naga is 2 and a green for a creature Naga Warrior at common. It's a 3/3 with some flavor text, and that's about it. Yeah, it's a 3/3 for 3, which is very okay. Like, actually slightly better than okay, because it's not often that we get these vanillas at common. It's not too often that we get 3/3s for 3. We get 5/5s for 5. We don't often get 3/3s for 3, not at common. Centaur Courser was imminently playable, and this will be as well. Basically, you never cut this. It's still going to be a mid-pack pick at the earliest, but you're always going to play it. C+. Hope Tender is up next. Hope Tender is 1 and a green for a creature human druid at uncommon. She's a 2/2. You can pay 1 and tap her to untap target land. Now, don't get too excited. That's not ramp. You paid 1 to untap that land. You're just filtering mana here. Or you can pay 1, tap her, and exert her to untap 2 target lands, which would be ramp. I think this looks better than it is. The first ability is meaningless in this format. It's like a painted bluff, except you're also tapping a creature in addition to the mana and the land to get that mana. The second ability is ramp, but you're really gonna need to go through some work to get that ramp. This looks like maybe a little bit more commandery or something. You know, getting to pay a mana, tap her, untap Gaia's Cradle? Or Nykthos? Now that's going to be a big play. In Limited, I don't think you're getting too much out of this other than maybe ramp every other turn. Still, she is a bear with an upside, so I'm rarely going to cut her, and I'm probably just going to always play her, but she is some of the worst ramp we've seen in a while, I think, on a creature anyways. She is a far cry from a mana dork, so C+ for me. She is decent. I'll probably always play her, but she's nowhere near where I would normally put a mana dork. The final hour is here, Hour of Promise. Hour of Promise is 4 and a green for a sorcery at rare. Search your library for up to 2 land cards, put them onto the battlefield, tapped, then shuffle your library. Then, if you control 3 or more deserts, create 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Alright. Brief preview of my Deserts Matters problems that we'll talk more about on Thursday. Colorless mana hurts your mana base and should not be treated lightly, which hurts a couple of the available deserts, especially at common. A land coming into play tapped really hurts your mana base, especially when it only taps for one color, which hurts the rest of the common deserts available. The uncommon deserts available are, well, uncommon. You can expect less than one, 0.8 to be specific, on average for any given draft, and you're not going to be the only one looking to grab it. Furthermore, the necessity of drawing and playing the deserts in order to enable creatures, some of which you must have those deserts in their proper place before they come out, like a Sand Strangler, is a really low odd of having that happen. If we're going to look at Sand Strangler and one desert in our deck, which is, probably the worst case scenario, you'd probably be shocked to find out that you have a 13% chance of drawing those two cards. In any order, you may draw the Sand Strangler first in your opening hand and then the desert on your 8th turn. But drawing those two specific cards by turn 8 of a game is 13%. That's really, really, really low. And that's why I have a problem with saying, oh, you can just add a desert to your deck and then this card's turned on. It really, 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 really is not. 87% of the time, it is not. Now, you can try to jam your deck full of the deserts and full of the Desert Matters cards, and obviously your chances are going to go up quite a bit. But it's draft. Other people are going to be picking cards that are, vanilla 3/3s for 4 with a mild upside. But anyways, we'll talk about my consistency issues with deserts and their playability when we actually get to them. This card, having 3 deserts on the battlefield, not even on the battlefield or in the graveyard like most of the cards, is just not going to happen. You're not getting 2 2/2s off of this card. You're paying 5 mana for a pair of Rampant Growths. And that's not how green ramps, not on turn 5. So D- just barely misses an F for me. I think this is just the fringiest of cards. And don't just expect that you're always going to have a desert. Be very careful about this mechanic. Maybe I'm wrong, but the odds don't look great to me. Anyways, Life Goes On, and Life Goes On is our next card. It's a single green mana for an instant at common. You gain 4 life. If a creature died this turn, you gain 8 instead. We've talked recently, a few days ago, about how a card that potentially could gain me 20 life, or technically 19 life, was probably still not a card that I would ever play. I'm definitely not playing one that gains me 4, maybe 8 life. It's absolutely unplayable. It's on par with a Fog. F-. Yes, it can make you some horses, and if you have that perfect green-white deck with the horse and this, go nuts. But the other 99% of the time, F-. Alright, we got a green mythic here, Majestic Miri Arc. Majestic Miri Arc is 4 and a green for a creature chimera at Mythic. It's a star. Majestic Miri Arc's power and toughness are each equal to twice the number of creatures you control. At the beginning of each combat, if you control a creature with flying, Majestic Miri Arc gains flying until end of turn. The same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. It's a lot of potential abilities. We saw this recently in Shadows over Innistrad with Odric Lunarch Marshal. And I'll talk about that in a second. So, the worst case scenario, this is a 5 mana vanilla 2/2. That's pretty bad. But let's hope we're not there. A single creature on board alongside this makes it a 4/4, and we're starting to get to kind of, fine enough to play. Any additional creatures put this just through the roof. The question then becomes, how often are we going to give this creature those various abilities? I played with Odric a little bit in Shadows over Innistrad. I drafted him a few times. I had him in a sealed event. And it was honestly somewhat disappointing how commonly you could get the abilities to show up. Flying was probably the most common, and certainly one of the most powerful. But half your deck's going to be green here, and just totally, utterly devoid of flying. Looking at commons and uncommons, all I see is Trample, Vigilance, and Reach. Trample is probably what's going to be the big game here. If you can have 3 or 4 creatures on the board alongside this, then Trample is going to be huge. Not quite as good as Flying, but still, with this thing being big and trample, it's going to be pretty darn good. Now, with all that in mind, the power is certainly there. I think this is a great card. I'm going to first pick this and play it every single time that I can. I think it's a B+. I think it's really good. But I am going to dial back my expectations a little bit on this just being a flying double striking lifelinker every single time I play it. There's going to be some times where it's very far from that. So B- to start on it. Yeah, be careful. This is why I don't do Hearthstone reviews, by the way, or play Hearthstone. If I had to give every single card, be careful, because sometimes it does 1 damage or 5 damage, we'd just be here forever. The final defeat is up next, Nissa's Defeat. Nissa's Defeat is 2 and a green for a sorcery uncommon. Destroy target forest, green enchantment, or green planeswalker. If that permanent was a Nissa planeswalker, draw a card. Yeah, this one's bad. This one's bad even by, like, the defeat cycle. Obviously, you're never main decking it because it's part of the defeat cycle. It's Color Hoser. It's a literal dead card if you're not going up against the mirror match here. But this one, you get to kill a forest? Absolutely not. Just no. Kill a green enchantment? That's insanely narrow. I mean, like, Sandworm Convergence, I guess? That's about it. Kill a Nissa? Or a Samet? Just not going to happen in Limited. This is still, you know, very technically sideboardable, but D-. It's just narrowly going to miss this F. The defeat cycle is generally really good in the mirror match. This one is not. I would not side this in, even if I was against green, until I saw the enchantment or the planeswalker. Oasis Ritualist is up next. Oasis Ritualist is 3 and a green for a creature Naga Druid at common. It's a 2/4. Tap it, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Tap it, exert it, add 2 mana of any 1 color to your mana pool. I wasn't a fan of the Hope Tender, but boy, am I a fan of Oasis Ritualist. Boy, and at common too. 4 mana's a little bit. We're really getting out of the range of mana dorks here. But color fixing and ramp, and maybe even double ramp if I exert it, super solid. It's not as high pick as a Llanowar Elf would be, or even a Druid of the Cowl, but still really, really good. I'm at B- on this. I love mana dorks. I really love them. Next up is Overrun. Overcome. Overcome is 3 green for a sorcery at uncommon. Creatures you control gain +2/+2. And gain trample until end of turn. This, of course, is exactly like Overrun, which is exactly this card if I said +3/+3. Every single thing else is exactly the same. Overrun, if you haven't played with it, is one of the stupidest, most groan-inducing cards ever. You know those cards that I mentioned at Amonkhet, like Cut to Ribbons or Insult to Injury, or even Destined to Lead, where you're fine, you're at 17 life, and then, nope, you're dead. Overrun is one of those cards. Overrun is possibly worse than some of those cards. Yeah, this is just... This is a power toughness buff card that you do pick quite highly. Sometimes I'd even first pick this and just zero in on building the perfect go wide strategy, probably green-white. Do not, under any circumstances, underestimate this card. It is amazing, even with 1 power and toughness less than the original. Solid B. Pride Sovereign is up next. Pride Sovereign is 2 and a green for a creature cat at rare. It's a 2/2. Pride Sovereign gets +1/+1 for each other cat you control, not itself. Pay a single white mana, tap it, and exert it to create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink. It pops out kitties. Yeah, I would not get too ahead of yourself with this. It is a little bit non-bowy if you aren't stacked on other cats. Turning this off for 2 turns to make it bigger while it doesn't do any damage? Not a great idea. Still, making 2 1/1s with lifelink for 1 mana every other turn is definitely something. Those are chump blockers, and chump blockers that gain you life. If you do have some more cats to go along with this, or you live in Luxac Christmas Land and you got a Regal Caracal in pack 3, this thing is going to be a beast. I'm not certain it's a competitive first pick against solid removal, but that's certainly the place that I'm going to pick it and go deep on it. I think it really, really is great just below solid removal. I'm going to start this at a solid B. I could see it going up or down, but let's start at B. Quarry Beetle is up next. Quarry Beetle is 4 and a green for a creature insected uncommon. It's a 4/5. When Quarry Beetle enters the battlefield, you may return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. There's some cute interactions here, of course, with the Sack of Deserts, but that's pretty fringy for my blood. Remember, those Sack of Desert Deserts are uncommon, and the Cycling Deserts I don't think you should be playing unless you have a great reason for. So we have a vanilla 4/5 for 5, which is okay. It's begrudgingly playable filler C. You cut it if you have a better card, and you don't if you don't. But I'm not too sold on the whole desert interactions, not going this deep on it anyways. We'll see about the uncommon deserts. I do generally quite like them a fair bit, but yeah, we'll get into that later. Rampaging Hippo is 4 green for a creature hippo at common. It's a 5/6 with trample and cycling for 2. I think I like this guy. Sandworm was just a little bit too much mana for my taste. This seems like it'll be much more reliably cast on 6 mana. That's still ever so slightly much, but especially in green you can often get there. Trample I think I like more than the can't be chump blocked clause, and if you're desperate you can even cycle this. This seems much more playable than the Sandworm. I still think I'm at a C+ at the absolute best. Probably it's even just a C, but yeah, I like Rampaging Hippo. I'm going to play it when I have it, I think, so C+. Ramunap Excavator is up next. Ramunap Excavator is 2 and a green for a creature Naga Cleric at rare. It's a 2/3. You may play land cards from your graveyard. Ooh, this is a lot more constructed focused for sure, especially once you start including fetch lands and stuff. In this format, you're getting back, what, like a desert that you cycled or sacked? Maybe an Evolving Wilds? Maybe you tossed a card or something to a discard or loot effect? You know, these cases are all relatively fringe and not even terribly build-aroundy. I think this should really be treated as a vanilla 2/3 for 3, which is kind of a C- for me. So C-, maybe you get a land someday out of it, but I wouldn't really bank on it. Ramunap Hydra is up next. Ramunap Hydra is 3 and a green for a creature Snake Hydra at rare. It's a Vigilance Reach Trample 3/3. It gets +1/+1 as long as you control a desert. It gets +1/+1 as long as there is a desert card in your graveyard. So, you know, most of them care about one or the other. This is both. And you get a bonus for each. This is probably one of the better payoffs for playing deserts. Sand Strangler is probably up there as well. And I'm still just not super sold on the desert thing. You guys know that. We'll talk about that more. And you will certainly let me know about it in the comments. I'm sure. I've seen it already. Luckily, the worst case scenario here is still pretty darn good. A 3/3 for 4. That's fine with Vigilance, Trample, and Reach. It's also in the color that has Fixing and Ramp to get around playing those tapped deserts, those colorless deserts, spending mana and time cycling some, etc. I do think green is probably the most well suited for the Deserts Matter deck, but this being a 3/3 for 4 at the worst case is still totally fine. As a 4/4, it's very solid, and getting a desert in either zone, hopefully you can do it, but again, remember, one Desert Matters card in one desert is 13% to draw the 2. You need multiple deserts, you need to spend real picks on them, you need to pick them before other people pick them, and you need to get the Desert Matters cards. That's just not the archetypes that I go into for limited Magic. If you can make this a 4/4, you are made. If you can make it a 5/5, it's just real good. I don't think it's first pickable in every case. If I see this early, if I get this in like my first few drafts, I will take it and I will try to build the Desert Matters deck and see how it goes. I'm going to value it at kind of like a B-, just because I do really like that Vigilance, Reach, Trample combo. That's really nice. And even if you don't get there on Desert, you can throw some cartouches on this or something and really get there. So B- to start. And please submit your angry desert-related comments down below. Resilient Kendra is up next. Resilient Kendra is 1 and a green for a creature Jackal Warrior at rare. It's a 2/2. When Resilient Kendra enters the battlefield, you may have target creature get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Resilient Kendra's power. Eternalize for 4 green. So this is basically a straight up better Yiva's Force Mage. Yiva's Force Mage was a 2/2 for 3 that gave +2/+2 to a creature when it came into play. And it was totally fine. This, being 2 mana for a 2/2 with that ability, is very solid. You know, we are at bare with an upside and then some at that point. Then, later in the game, after this has outlived its usefulness, maybe traded, maybe chumped, getting to bring it back for 6 and give a creature +4/+4 and have a 4/4 left over, that's a big game. Resilient Kendra looks really good. It's kind of my like poster child of a really good first pickable rare that is not quite in the bomb category. It's a bear. You know, it's a bear for a little while, and then it's a couple of bears standing on each other's shoulder at the end with like a slightly bigger giant growth attached to them. It's all these cards that are good by themselves that put together are really, really, really good, but aren't quite in that super bomb status. So I'm going to go with a solid B on this, maybe even a B+. It's not one of those cards that makes me go, haha, I've won the tournament. It's more like, haha, I'm on the way to building a good deck. Next up is Ronus's Last Stand, what happened after #RonusFace. Ronus's Last Stand is green for a sorcery at rare. Create a 5/4 green snake creature token. Land you control, don't untap during your next untap step. This is a 5/4 for 2. Obviously you want to play this on turn 2. Taking off turn 3, I've got a 5/4, I don't care. Turn 3, whatever. I'm going to attack on turn 3. That's what I'm going to do. Playing this on a later turn, especially if you want to cast another spell that's also going to cost you virtually double, does sound a little bit problematic, but you're still getting a 5/4. This does feel slightly high risk, high reward, depending on where you draw it and play it, so I'd be ever so slightly careful. Double green on turn 2 is also something that you simply can't count on, especially if you're playing a whole bunch of deserts. So let's stick it at kind of like a B. I think it'll vary wildly game to game, but I'm going to start it at a B. I'll probably first pick it when I see it. Rotus Stalwart is up next. Rotus Stalwart is 1 and a green for a creature human warrior at common. It's a 2/2, so it's another bear, and it's got a whole bunch of text on it too. You may exert Rotus Stalwart as it attacks. When you do, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn and can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less this turn. It's honestly kind of ridiculous how many bears with upsides there are in this set. I don't know. It's the first time that I've ever really truly noticed power creep on creatures at common or uncommon. It certainly has existed, but we have like one vanilla bear in this set, and it's in red of all colors. Very weird. Anyways, it's a bear with a very nice upside, so it's all in for an easy C+. Being able to continue attacking in with it when comparable creatures show up and they would otherwise trade with it is very nice. I will play just every one of these that I get, and I will pick them mid-pack very happily. C+. Sidewinder Naga is 2 and a green for a creature Naga warrior at common. It's a 3/2. As long as you control a desert or there is a desert card in your graveyard, Sidewinder Naga gets +1/+0 and has trample. So it becomes a 4/2 trample if you have the desert. That's cool and all. It still trades down, but then it gets through for maybe an extra damage or 2. Raises it ever so slightly, but for me, you know, it's really just a vanilla 3/2 for 3 a lot of the time, which is fine. You know, it's a C. And play it if I have a spot, and I won't if I don't. You know, if I've got multiple deserts, which I won't personally have at least to start until I see that it is actually a legitimate strategy, I'm just going to keep this at a C. Sifter Worm is up next. Sifter Worm is 5 green for a creature worm at uncommon. It's a 7/7 trample. Vanilla test destroying 7/7 for 7 trample. Plus, when Sifter Worm enters the battlefield, scry 3, then reveal the top card of your library. You gain life equal to the card's converted mana cost. So the end result is life gain. Womp womp. That's awful, but it's the best kind of life gain. It's bonus life gain that's attached to a giant trampling creature that gives you, for some reason, scry 3, which is a blue ability. I don't know why green is getting so much of blue's color pie lately. I checked. This is the second time that a mono green creature has ever had scry attached to it. The only real qualm here is that this is 5 green, so you know we're going to need the format to be ever so slightly slower. You're going to need to have ramp, but boy, getting a 7/7 trample for that 7 mana and the card selection of scrying 3, which is a whole hell of a lot, is just fantastic. And sure, you know, get some life, sure, whatever, I don't care about that. Yeah. This seems great. I'm at a B on Sifter Worm. I think Sifter Worm looks real good. Yeah, let's hope we can actually cast it, eh? Tenacious Hunter is our second last card. 2 green for a creature crocodile at uncommon. It's a 4/4. As long as a creature has a -1/-1 counter on it, Tenacious Hunter has Vigilance and Death Touch. It's a 4/4 for 4. And also an unfortunate victim of small set syndrome. This is the first time this video that I have said the words -1/-1 counter. That's not great. That's not great for our little crocodile friend here. Obviously, red has a few and black has some. And green has some in the final pack, but boy, is the plan of drafting something with the hope of very specific cards being in pack 3 not something that I like doing. But yeah, this is a great example of small set syndrome. This card fits fantastic in the overall world of Amonkhet with -1/-1 counters. It does not fit really well in green in our Amonkhet draft. Now, worst case scenario, fail state. It's a 4/4 for 4. Totally and utterly fine. And hopefully you get something, even if it's just an ornery kudu or just something, and really hopefully be paired with black or even red. There's an okay number of counters kicking around there. And then this gets even better. This is a C+ for me in the fail state of it being a 4/4 for 4. There's a whole lot of just vanilla test busting creatures in this set. I don't know if I like that. Anyways, yeah, C+ for this. Obviously goes up if you can get together with black, and if you do, get maybe a bit lucky in pack 3. The final green card of the set is Uncage the Menagerie. Uncage the Menagerie is X green for a sorcery at Mythic. Search your library for up to X creature cards with different names that each have converted mana cost X. Reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. This is probably just not good enough. They don't hit the battlefield, which is a huge problem right there. That instantly makes this card less good than it could have been. And in comparison to something like a Chord of Calling, the bigger they are, the more mana you're spending on it, so it's not even like you're going to get to play them this turn. Furthermore, the more mana you put into this, the less targets you're probably going to have. It's equal to, not less than or equal to. If I pay 5 mana, in the average deck, I'm going to get what? 1? Maybe 2? 5 drops? On the other hand, putting only 1 mana into this, or 2 mana, means I'm getting only 1 drops, or 2 drops. This was LRR's preview card, and Prowling Serpapard notwithstanding, they tend to get janky, fun, maybe a little bit more constructed, EDH, Highlander kind of cards, and not necessarily great limited cards, which is where I think this ends up. Mythic though it may be, I think I'm passing it 100% of the time. D+. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for green. Let me know what you think of green. Let me know what your favorite card is in this set. There looks to be an awful lot of just kind of like B-level cards in green. Green looks solid overall, not necessarily overbearingly powerful in any one card, but just a whole lot of real solid cards here. I'm going to be pretty happy if I open up green headed up with Ambuscade and stuff like that. Let me know what you think of green in the comments down below. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at the Mana Leek. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me at facebook.com/themanaleek, twitch.tv/themanaleek, and patreon.com/themanaleek, where you can keep this channel going, sponsor a draft, work your way towards earning a playmat. Another playmat is going out this week, so make sure that you do check that out. If you like the content, click that thumbs up button. If you're new, click that subscribe button so you can see all the other stuff that's going to be coming out. And if you do have questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see you all tomorrow.